Welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Thursday, May the 1st, and we are complete with April showers, although fortunately we've still got lots of rain in the forecast, which our garden is enjoying immensely. And we're honored and delighted that you're here and ready to participate in stepping up to the plate and understanding the next level of this awesome first century Aramaic technology called forgiveness. Delighted that you're here to be part of the process. And we'll we have a gentleman named Joe Bryson. How are you, young man?
Hey, outstanding. Can you hear me?
Hi, you're loud and clear.
I am loud.
Perfectly clear.
Well, it's not easy, but I who?
She said she's not getting a code.
Okay.
I had to, yeah. It's always it's not always, but I completely shut my phone off and bring it back up, close all the different windows that I had open, and then I go in. I got in today, so I don't know if that helps anybody. Are you gone? Yep, you're gone.
Oh, we're here loud and clear.
Oh, there you go.
You're there. And Michelle says she's trying to get in, but apparently having difficulty.
Alrighty. Hey,
So we'll give
speaking
her a
of
second or two.
yeah, I last night, I bought the grounding sheet for my bed, and
Right.
I don't know if it was that or what, but or this morning in the wee hours, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, just had this tremendous peaceful vibration and an awareness of my body and in a vibration. So it was
Nice.
just yeah, it was of course I go and I Google it, and it's almost like no matter what you Google, they're going to have some kind of downside to it. That it could be this, or this, and it's like, well, what's the upside? I didn't feel any kind of threat, or I didn't feel bad. It was just a feeling of vibrating. Like my whole self was vibrating, it was wonderful.
Sounds like
Now,
another level of awareness in your physiology. And, going out and walking through the grass, one of the things that's beneficial about walking through the grass is that it balances the electromagnetic field and the excess electrons that sometimes accumulated when we're isolated and insulated from the earth. I don't know of any downside for that. And of course, a grounding sheet is something that's designed to do the same thing. You put it on your bed, or they're grounding mats, and I've never heard any negative feedback on them, so I'm not sure where that would
I
come
don't
from.
know. Yeah,
But,
the other thing was in terms of a new level, a new understanding. But we in the Course in Miracles group that I attend on Wednesday afternoons, I had a real nice discussion about perception.
right.
I think it was perception versus knowledge. So the perception is functioning on a faulty uh, understanding of like you're always expressing. Hey, you're using your eyes, but what you're seeing is being generated behind your eyes.
Right.
So because
By
of
the
the
brain.
because of the quote unquote lack of knowledge. So there's perception and then there's knowledge. And perception is not using knowledge all the time. It's basically stuck in the past, or oh, this is a phone that I'm looking at, or here's a coffee cup, that kind of thing. So that go ahead.
Yeah, the a good metaphor is the computer. I can't get a piece of data out of the computer that isn't in the computer. So by
Right.
definition, anything I get out of the computer is from the past. Well, in the same way, when you think of the body-mind unit as an energetic storage device, that this carbon-based system stores information, if something's stored, it's obviously from the past. And basically, what we're now understanding, and this comes out of the neurology labs, what we're now understanding is that when we're perceiving through what's stored in carbon-based memory, we're literally living in the past because everything's stored there. Of
Yep.
course, in order to use it, had to be stored there. If I
Mhm.
present a new gizmo or a new gadget, you have no idea what it is, and I set it in front of you, you look at it and you go, well, I have no idea. And then I say, oh, it's a whatchamacallit. And you go, oh, okay, now I know what a whatchamacallit is. It's now in the past. And
Yep.
and there's no knowledge there. There's just information. Good, bad, or indifferent really doesn't matter. And there's a great saying. I'm probably not going to quote it exactly. Another one from Carl Jung, where he says that the closer you get to knowledge, the farther you get away from the intellect.
Right, and that's wow. Because we have this great. There's a great one of the participants, Jerry. Jerry's got the intellect. Jerry's got it. It's like, yeah, Jerry, that's it. You got it. It's we look at each other and shake our heads. Yeah, that's it. Now, where do we? It's to me. It's okay. Where am I going in the garden now? So anyway,
If he could call her.
Okay.
what do you want?
So I'm with you. I think you're right on track there. And what we're looking to do, if you go back into the ancient scriptures, you find all of this described, although it's oftentimes metaphorical. It's done with parables. In fact, you hear Yeshua, them saying about Yeshua, without a parable, he never spoke. He never literally addressed anything. It was always parallel meaning. And you hear this story about this giant called Goliath, which is a metaphor for the ego, the one that, oh, nobody could ever beat that down. Look how big and strong in the armor. And, he's so tough. And there's this little guy who's a shepherd boy who's so small he can't even put on armor.
Yeah.
But he has a goal. He wants to get the king's daughter, and the king has promised whoever can take down Goliath does it. And so what does he do? He goes out there with 5 smooth stones. Now, I've never been trained, thank you God, in the art of war, but I would think that if I were going to enter a conflict, I would want some of the sharpest, rocks,
Yeah.
not smooth but sharp, cutting rocks, if that's what one we're going to do. So it isn't about literal physical smooth stones, but here's this still small voice called David, and he develops 5 practiced faculties. And with those 5 practiced faculties, we actually enter into human life. But you can't do it with all the noise of the mind. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that chatterbox.
Yeah. If you can hold for just 1 second,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to just restart here. Michelle's trying to get in, and she asked if you could call her and do a 3-way, but just let me check one more time. Is Michelle showing up there?
Too, oh, okay.
No.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
She can't get through. She doesn't know
Okay.
Mexico,
She can't.
but it won't send her
She can't get through. So
Okay.
if you could call her and 3-way
Right.
her in, then we'll be able to have our conversation.
So I should leave.
And while you're doing that, I'll explain to people what we're doing.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
So it was prearranged. Michelle and Joe are friends, and Michelle wanted to do some processing on the show. And she's in Mexico right now, so it looks like she's probably having some difficulties. She can't get a code for the app at this moment. So Joe's going to call her and come back, and we'll carry on with our conversation, see what's going to open up, what processing is going to look like. And so we'll give that just a moment. So we'll give Joe just a moment to come back, and our conversation has been about getting past this non-being self, the self that comes out of, as I was just talking about, carbon-based memory, these false images of who we think we are, and how to weaken that, and in weakening it, end up strengthening the ability to hear and perceive or gather information from the actuality. We live in a world of actuality, and our minds each have the capacity to generate a reality. When we wake up to who we are, we get to experience the truth of this human life with its 5 smooth stones is 5 faculties, which if we put them to work, if we use them, we strengthen them. And that's one of the benefits of taking the tools that we're presenting. Using those tools is kind of like the exercise room. It's like going into the gym for developing these higher faculties. And as we live in those higher faculties, a whole new level of possibility and a whole new level of creation occurs, because we are designed to live from that state. We're not designed to live from carbon-based memory any more than, I would turn to my computer for instructions on everything that I want to do. Gee, it's really, that computer's got so much wonderful information, but do I let it run my life? No. Do I say, what am I supposed to do next Tuesday? No. Well, carbon-based memory is in the same place. It's a storage system, great device, has information from the past that can be useful. But if we allow the dynamics of the past, or the false self that is a product of the firing of information in brain cells from the past, if we allow that self to run us, then it's like allowing the computer to run our lives. And we're looking to get beyond that. So we finished up our conversation yesterday talking about the original guilt and rage that many people experience. Well, as life unfolds, the guilt, the rage that people play out, and few realize, and even fewer will do the work, at least at this point. Our objective is to strengthen the availability of the work so much that the energy of it becomes available to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. But being able to go back to and to be able to handle the energy of that moment where we were pulled out of being and had to give up the direct experience of ourselves as love, at least in our awareness, in order to survive. And for virtually everyone, that happens so early that it's absolutely unconscious. And my offering is that that moment is the source of all of our offenses and all of our defenses. And the pain of living in the non-being self. What is the non-being self? The non-being self is a self that's made up of thoughts. It's literally an image generated by the mind, internal to the mind, thoughts based on fear and hostility about self, oftentimes messages from the power person. So if one is locked into that non-being self, then they're locked into something that doesn't exist except as a coagulation, as it were, of thought disorders fed to self about self that are all based in a falsehood. And what happens is that ends up becoming an addiction. One of the objectives of this work, because my offering is, that's the primary addiction. All of the other ones follow. The pain of living in that non-being self is what people are attempting to cover up with alcohol, drugs, hostility, fear, whatever it is covering up that pain of living out of a self, a false image in the mind generated by pain-based thoughts. And that's the original addiction. That's one of the objectives of the quantum still point, to free us from that original addiction. And so I think okay, sir, I think we've got you. Joe, are you there? Michelle? Hello? Are you guys with us? If you give me just a minute, I'm going to just restart the app and see if we can get Joe back.
show any callers in queue.
No, they're not. Give them a second to call back in. We've lost Joe for the moment, but I think he'll be with us any second, hopefully. Well, no sign of Joe at the moment. So if you can keep an eye there, Jeannie, I'm going to just go on with our material for today. So if you think of every picture that the mind paints on the inside of our eyeballs, every picture that the mind generates, literally, it is the capacity of the human mind to convert thoughts into pictures that makes our pictures available. And when we assemble a whole complex of thoughts about any given issue or topic, let's say regarding self, and there's a place in our own minds where we honor and cherish ourselves, but then there's that power person dynamic of you're broken that's been fed into the mind. And when those things come up, people become ambivalent about them, about their own self, lowercase self. And that unconscious construct of a false self, the self that is very temporary, but seems so real. One of the things about the human mind is whatever's vibrating in the mind at any given moment, most people perceive as this is just a fact. This is just what's true because they're seeing it. Few have been given to understand that what we see with our eyes is the mind's conversion of its own thoughts into pictures. That's why most people believe they're right about everything they say because they've got a picture. You know, if their thought is, well, I'm right about this, they've got a picture. They've got evidence that they're right, even though their conclusion may be way off base. And the way to tell whether your mind is lying to you or not, one of the primary ways to tell is no matter how tight the story is, no matter how good it seems, no matter how real it seems, if there's hostility or fear moving in you, your mind is a liar. That can be a tough one to swallow if you've grown your whole life believing what your mind tells you. Hostility or fear is a signal in the human mind that the mind is using corrupt data. Let's see if that's true or not. We can verify this very easily. Let's do a test. Have you ever had anybody accuse you of saying something you absolutely never said, of doing something you absolutely never did? Ever been accused of that? Okay. Think about the person who made the accusation. Here's what I can guarantee you. They were in some form of hostility or fear when they said you did what you didn't do. They were living in an hallucination coming from carbon-based memory stored in their own minds and projected into their brain's image of you. So notice every time you've ever been accused, it's been by someone who's working out of corrupt data. Now, here's the kicker. Here's where the big lesson comes. We can see that about everybody else. But when we're in our own hostility or fear, we still believe our story. You start puking on somebody, and everything your mind tells you about them is thought disorder in your structure converted into a picture of them. And your mind is lying to you when hostility or fear are active. Your human life has been voided in its function. Love is not available. And when we're stuck in that state, it seems like whatever's going on in the mind must be true. My offering is, and you look at the genius of this tool developed 2,000 years ago called forgiveness from the first century Aramaic, that tool collapses that whole structure. It collapses the perception and the projections from carbon-based memory. Otherwise, that unconscious rage, that original guilt and rage, has us believe, I mean, so many times I've heard from people who say things like, well, if I ever really let that go, I'd kill somebody. And yeah, there's that kind of pain and trauma beneath the surface. And when that becomes an active tuve in the mind, if you remember from our conversations about the Beatitudes, remember the first word in each of the Beatitudes does not say blessed are they in Aramaic, it says tuvehun. And the word tuvehun is a three-part word that says a latent neurostructure implanted by the creator to guide you to happiness and well-being becomes your conscious possession, you who. They're saying that you want to engage and train your mind to hold to the tuve, which in that word in Aramaic that word is an attitude of mind. Hold to the tuve of active present love. When that is active, then it supports the presence in your physiology of yourself as active present love. But when this hostility, guilt, and fear-based tuve becomes active, it is definitely the cause of many murders, much trauma in the world. And what's recognized as crimes of passion, that's what is happening in the mind when that happens. And that false self is something that we experience when, remember, one of the conditions of installing a power person dynamic in someone's mind is that the power person had more power over you than you did at that moment. And that's the state where, and it's usually as a child, we're intimidated in creating this false self in order to survive and how to fulfill the needs that we perceived our power person had. Like it becomes my function. If I'm in that kind of survival mode and the power person has power over me and is not functioning as love, then survival becomes fulfilling my power person's needs. And of course, one of the things to be aware of is that your power person had a power person who had a power person. Longfellow wrote, if we could read the secret history of our enemies, we should find in each one's life sorrow and suffering enough to disarm all hostility. And I would add to that, and to find compassion. And I'm going to check once more, if you'll give me a moment, and see if Joe has gotten back on the line with us. Okay, young Joseph.
That's me.
You're back.
I'm back, but I do not have.
It's not working.
No, we're gonna consider she's in Mexico, so it may be
Right.
some type
So
of.
some technology problems. Okay.
But as I was listening to you just now,
yes,
I would like to offer this, that forgiveness, there is a collapsing. So as I forgive myself of the false self, right? There's a collapsing. Okay. So for me, in my mind, I've got this picture of the building or the structure or the thought or the false self collapsing. And from that collapsing, from that, there is the manure, there is the compost for the true self to blossom.
You got it. Right on. Is that a copyrighted thought? I think I'll use that.
That is copyrighted. I'm going to use.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll mention your name every time I use it.
Every time. Otherwise, just saying.
But you're absolutely right.
So they instead
That's
of
what it is. The fertilizer's there.
I am. What's the right word? Collapsing doesn't work as well as I feel. Forgiveness allows me to create this. Well, let's just be blunt. Forgiveness allows me to create the shit or the manure or the fertilizer. Forgiveness fertilizes me to blossom into my true self. And as you say, to be a human being.
Right. I'd offer that just one slight adjustment in that, and
Yeah,
that is that when I engage in the forgiveness process and collapse the construct, that tiny little bit that I'm seeing, that
Right.
construct in my mind collapses in on its own footprint, and that's the fertilizer. It gives me access to
Right.
the fertilizer. And when
Right.
I work with that out of a space of active present love, that's
Right.
what nurtures and feeds being
And I would,
as one does their work.
there you go. And I would offer that the issue of multiple fertilizing, that once I collapse one such issue I may have about myself that is false, others will follow.
Yes.
So it doesn't, I always feel fearful when I hear, well, this could be generational. You could have, you know, I don't know, you always talk about how many numbers of people, so don't be too hard on yourself. Okay, well, you know what? If that many, if there's that, it reminds me of that story you tell where you were quiet and you looked at all these lights and they were your past
Right.
ancestors or past people that were basically asking you for help. And to that end, there isn't, we start to leave this world of, well, that's one piece of forgiveness. It's more like it could be a collapsing of who knows, right?
There's a lot of fertilizer in there, a lot of
Yeah, it could be.
generations of fertilizer.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. A lot of fertilizer.
Becoming cognizant. That's actually a new way to look at it for me, and that's a powerful insight to help
The
to transform
blossoming.
that fear of all those generations. It's like, yes, look at all the fertilizers that's there for you. Look at all the
We're all,
opportunities to strengthen being.
yeah, to blossom into your true nature.
Yeah.
Oh,
And to
anyway.
give up this having been intimidated to create this false self,
Oh.
and to give up the use of intimidation, the power person dynamic, to force others into the corner we want them in.
Yes.
Because that's, what we know really clearly is when the stress is up and the chips are down. And this my take is, this is literally what runs the whole world, is that people do whatever their power person did to them that they hated the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the third level of behavior, and that runs the world.
It's like a railroad track,
Yeah, and it's well established. And the act of engaging in forgiveness on an ongoing basis literally weakens that pattern and ultimately frees us from it.
Bingo.
So breathing with you and joining you in the process, my friend. It's nice to see how deeply you're grokking this work and putting it to really to work in your world.
Well, I have this tremendous mentor, shall we say, and all you need to do is go look in the mirror. and Jeannie too.
Yes, thank you, Jeannie.
I'll talk to you again. Bye.
All right, thank you, my friend. You have a blessed one. Just one quick question.
Yeah.
If you look at where your process was, and what are you at now? About 20, I don't know, 22 years of doing this work or so?
Yeah, 20s. Yeah,
25
over.
maybe.
Yeah, yes. I've known you for that long. Anyway, I'm at that point where, oh my gosh, my Course in Miracles book, I have dates, that when I stop in, and
right.
I've got dates from the 90s. Shit. That's not
And I'm
good.
wondering at this point, because in my awareness in the conversations we have, it's like there's been a shift for you, and I'm wondering, just for feedback's sake, how that shift, if you see it in terms of your own process, if that relates to the point where you did that quantum session.
Mm,
Has something changed at the
yeah, I
root
want
of
to.
your process, do you feel? And do you have any sense of that? Any explanation for
Yes,
that?
yes, I'm ready to. I thought about it yesterday. I was on my way back or some. I was somewhere, and I said I got to sign up again. I got to come back up. One-on-one with you, Michael, is something special. And I don't like that word special. One-on-one with you is something extraordinary. Um, so yeah, yeah, and certainly the jaw, the idea and working. Couple things. The antenna aspect of my body, the working of my jaw, the attention to my cranium, my skull, that there's energy flowing there. I think that was part of last night or early this morning with this vibrational, peaceful feeling that I had. And then some of the work that you were doing when I was on the massage table, and it's just the energetic aspects of working one-on-one with you, and as we were moving along, it's a facilitation, that I love collaboration. I just think that word is I don't see anything, whenever I'm collaborating, it certainly, the outcome is so much better than some type of versus. This collaboration's much better.
Action compared to the words on a page or what have you.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, Irish Catholic, and everything was very competitive, and it wasn't a collaboration between my father passing last couple of weeks ago. We never. It's not like we ever collaborated. And I can't say never. I mean, there was times where he may have thought he was collaborating with me, and I didn't think, or I thought I was collaborating with him, and he didn't think. Anyway, it's just I think that what I'm getting at is yes. The answer to the question is yeah. The still point work that I did with you one-on-one was a collaboration too.
You know, one of the aspects of that whole process too, if we talked about this a few days ago on the show, but anybody who's listening, if you look up on YouTube the word cymatics, 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 and you look
Say
at
it.
how
I'm sorry.
sound,
Spell it again. What was it?
cymatics,
Uh,
cymatics,
uh,
and it's a study of how sound organizes matter.
gotcha.
And you'll see there are a lot of videos on YouTube you can watch, and let's say they'll take a drum head from a drum and they'll put sand on it, and then they'll play a musical note, and all of a sudden those grains of sand get up and dance and form
Yep.
this geometrical pattern that is just so complex and so amazing. And then
Yeah.
they shift the note, and the sand jumps, and bang, there's another totally different, very complex geometrical pattern.
Mm,
Sound organizing matter.
mm,
You remember the creation was spoken into existence.
right.
And you look at, and the place where many people hold their antenna locked up is right there at the voice box, and the tissue that's most powerfully impacted by all the raging, all the screaming, all the pain, all the
Yeah.
trauma,
Mm,
all the unspoken wishes, that energy literally, part of the process is releasing it from that tissue.
that space between your neck and your head. There's a lot of self-regulation or emotional regulation that can be done, and I'm learning. I mean, that's been showing up for me as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Did you notice when you were talking about the grounding and this new energy that you noticed, did you notice any pulsing anywhere in your physiology?
Pulsing mean like a heartbeat kind of thing?
Well, it it would be like a heartbeat, only it's not a heartbeat. I mean,
Mm,
something out of the ordinary.
mm. I would just say it was more, I think what I recognized first was that my feet and my lower body was vibrating. So there was this disconnect, or I'm trying to describe it. So I'm saying my mind was feeling my legs. Like, what's this vibration I'm feeling here? Because I thought at the time I didn't think about numbness or anything. I just because what could have caused me to be, well, I mean, could be a lot of different things, but no, I don't. There wasn't anything like localized to say this is, my
Well,
ankle was bothering, kind of thing.
just perhaps pay attention on a new level, because
Yeah.
that what you're calling a vibration very well may have been a pulse. And what I've been finding, the last year or two, I've been taking usually at least an hour, sometimes as much as 3 hours in the morning, every morning,
Right.
and just being with, cultivating that resonance with love. Actually, it kind of started with that request that was made in that experience you referred to, where I saw that vast field of darkness and those
Oh
tiny
yeah.
lights in it, and
Right.
ancestors asking for help. And what I've been noticing is the place where I'm finding I'm getting what I would call direct instructions or direct input from Ruka. I mean, right down to the point where literally, I didn't know what my radio show was going to be about today, and in that state, I pull out and I'm writing down the instructions for what the show's going to be.
I remember.
So pay attention when those pulses come in, and notice there's information with them. And my take is that you're coming into higher states of alignment and allowing, as the antenna aligns, there is literally a greater signal strength that's happening. If I have a TV antenna on the roof and channel 2 is a local TV station and it's flowing in at 100% signal strength, and I have a proper antenna, properly shaped, because the shape of an antenna determines the frequencies it receives. If I have a properly shaped antenna, it's oriented properly. If there are 100 points of signal strength flowing through the air from channel 2, I'm going to pick up with that antenna. There's going to be a resonance and an energy exchange between that signal that's flowing and the antenna. And in the wires, there's going to be 100 points of signal strength, and I'm going to have great clarity in sound and picture on my television screen. If somebody goes up and bends the arms on the antenna, turns the antenna backward, then I might only get a 5-point input. There's 100-point signal strength there, but I'm only getting 5 points in. And as you bring correction, then you get a deeper energy exchange. And when that deeper energy exchange happens, there is a deeper flow through the whole system. And what I'm experiencing is, personally, in my own meditation, quiet time, is that those pulses are bringing in new levels of awareness and new information. So just something to watch and to see what you find.
Yeah, it's I fall back to the creation of, the manure, or the nurturing and nourishing. That's what you're saying with regards to the antenna. It's nurturing and nourishing myself, and from that comes this creation of the loving being, or just being human. Just okay. Silence has a lot to do with it.
Well, the scriptures talk about, in him we live, move, and have our being. Literally, as an antenna, which my take is physiology, what we call our physical body is just an antenna, is literally moving through space. We're told at about 7,000 miles an hour. That means that if we run into something with a similar atomic magnetic structure, i.e., this antenna is designed for love and we're flowing through a field of love, then there's an energy exchange. If we fall out of alignment with that, then the energy exchange is cut back and the still small voice disappears, and this raucous, raging, pain-based, non-being self takes over. Forgiveness weakens that false, non-being self voice. And as I allow myself to be out of my mind, to get quieter and quieter, then I can literally start to hear that still small voice, because I've avoided the noise of sadness and grief and guilt and all the drama and trauma and crap that goes on in the world.
And that's
As forgiveness is supplied, those things are weakened.
And a new language is learned, or a new form of
Yes.
communication has to be. I have to say yes to it and say, I didn't hear, or I didn't listen, or I didn't comprehend before, and that feeling of comprehension maybe is another aspect to say, oh, there's that peace of mind of, oh, okay. So it's a
Peace
it's
that
another,
passes all understanding.
yeah.
It is not of the mind.
Yeah. You're
got to be out of your mind to receive it. And that's to me is at the core of the quantum process, still point process, is for an instant the mind of what the scriptures called the mind of man. The mind of man lets go for an instant. It's that mind that holds this whole structure, the past in place. And that is an addiction. If you can get, and that's what the quantum still point is doing, if you can get the mind to let go, even for an instant, and maybe you remember the instant that happened for you, then that thing crashes. It doesn't mean you're finished with it. Obviously, there's still work to be done with it, but it doesn't run you anymore. It is no longer an addiction.
The contrast. Yeah.
Good breath, my friend.
and you, my buddy.
All right, sir. Holding the space.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
All right. Lots of love and blessings. Take care. Bye-bye. There you go back and you listen to Paul say these words. Whether in or out of the body, I knew not, for I saw things which I could not utter. What was he saying? There is a place where we come from that is nothing like the place we call here. Robert Heinlein, science fiction writer, wrote a book, Stranger in a Strange Land. Being is in a strange land. You remember that song that was written about Vincent van Gogh? This world was never meant for one as beautiful as you. The truth is, this world was meant for you. The beauty of it, the presence of it, the awesomeness of it was meant for you. It was metaphorically called the Garden of Eden. And guess who pooped in the garden and messed it up? We did. And that's why the forgiveness work becomes so important. That's why the ability to let your mind go. And, there is a certain intellectual part to this work and to the journey we're taking. But the intellectual part is not for the sake of the intellect. Here's what happens. Once the intellect asks its first question, it will make a noise and create interference until its last question is answered. And then it shuts up. Then the real thing can happen. And what forgiveness does is it allows it supports it in shutting up. If that makes sense for you and you have a question or a thought for us, I'm going to go to the phone line. So if you have a thought, we've got about 12 or 13 minutes left. So it would be awesome to jump into another conversation of someone who's on the path and doing their work and perhaps can add some other pieces to what it is we're talking about. So I'm going to go check the phone lines. If you push that call button, we'll have a conversation. And Miss Cammie, how are you, young lady?
I am awesome. How about yourself?
I am rocking and doing well. Thank you. What's
Um,
exciting in your world today?
this is exciting for me. It's a little off of what you were, well, it's off of what you were talking about, but it's about the worksheet.
Okay, great.
Um, so, and I've heard other people struggle with it having gone to a lot of intensives. And for those of you that don't know, I was exposed to this work 25 years ago. And I haven't been persistent with it throughout those 25 years. And I'm just now getting back into it. And I
Right.
don't know if this would be helpful for anyone, but I've noticed that my goals in 7A recently, since my quantum still point, have switched from like the way I did them for years was I would kind of just restructure the goal that I already had to
Right.
a more loving goal
Okay.
rather than what I see it say here now is a truly loving goal.
Mm.
And so last night, or was it this morning? Whatever, very recently, I was um, doing a worksheet on not being heard. That
Right.
not being heard and not listened to thing that I carry. And I was thinking about how much I interrupt people. This is just a sidebar that I interrupt people to be heard and how frustrating that can be to have a conversation with me.
Right.
And then as far back to the goal thing, my goal thing, this was about not being listened to. And instead of my goal just changing a little bit, which my goal is to be heard and understood,
Right.
my goal switched to for me to hear and understand.
Mm.
And that's the truly loving goal, right? I just wanted to check with you and see that's a
Well,
truly loving goal.
what I hear you saying is you're recognizing that you shifted from something out there has got to bring it to me to awareness of yourself as in one of the aspects of this state of being that we call love is compassion. And I hear you, what's showing up is a level of compassion that perhaps you didn't have before in being able to see things from the other person's point of view. And that's an aspect of, the word that we've been told represents our true self, the word soul, the compassion. You look at what people call Christianity, and its original objective was to get to the place of experiencing your true created essence as love. And it's interesting that there's another religion out there, the Buddhist tradition. And the Buddhist tradition is looking to cultivate a different aspect of that soul or that state of being, and that's compassion. And what I hear you alluding to is that you're seeing a new level of compassion opening in you. And that's awesome.
Yeah, even towards people that um and Tim was talking about this today that they don't trigger us, because I've always like coming from the therapist perspective with PTSD and all of that it's a trigger. And Tim was saying they don't trigger you. That's all a construct in your mind, right? Which I've been hearing you say for a long time. But I feel like it's just such a big shift. And that one,
That's the
like
idea.
I've seen it happening since I did the quantum still point. I've seen it shifting, but now it's like just made this major shift. Because you know why? Because I started listening to the codependence to interdependence. Okay, how do I do that? My question, I think, is no. So, what that's going to create when I change those goals, because as I'm talking, I'm still feeling kind of upset about not being heard,
Right.
like the need to be right thing. Um,
But you're not addicted to it anymore.
okay.
That's the thing that's what I hear you say. And that's what I'm seeing. And the feedback I'm getting from people when they do the quantum still point is they recognize that that's still there, but it's not an addiction that they have to get lost and locked into. It's like, oh, here it is. I still have some work to do on this one. Okay, another level of it. Okay. But it's not grabbing them by the face and tearing them down into the world of hostility or fear, the power person dynamic. Does that fit? Does
And
that make sense?
it
Because the
does.
truth is, what we're talking about can't really be put into words. Of Course in Miracles says it beautifully. Truth can't be spoken in words, so we're dancing around. And to me, the whole objective of this work for the last 50 plus years for me has been, how can we get this into a language that we can bring some of that meaning that's really unspeakable into this level of awareness. So
Right.
you have this
And
experience, and
when,
then you go up training your mind to teaching your mind to talk about it, because it doesn't fit into the parameters of the world.
if
Well,
I
I hear you saying
still,
that excuse me, go ahead.
no, I probably need to hear what you were going to say more than I need to speak.
Well, I was just going to say that what I hear you saying is you've awakened a new aspect of your own being. And that's what really needed to happen for this issue to be a non sequitur.
It's like it was in my head all these years, but after the quantum still point, it's actually moving into an understanding. Does that
Nice. Yep. That's
make
that's it
sense?
right on.
Uh,
Yep.
like instead of all this head stuff going on, but I still have a piece of that. So I still have work to do. And why I say that is because I still want to be heard.
Right.
I still want to be able to express myself and be understood. But and I think I said this, I'm not sure because I'm in confusion about this, obviously. Um, even though I still want to be understood, as long as I keep setting that goal to be more understanding, St. Francis's prayer. I've got a bracelet with
Right.
with, I love that. Um, if as long as I keep setting that goal instead of the one to be heard, then that's where I'll get forgiveness, and it will be a non-issue, like other things that I have worked through.
Right.
This is just a really huge one.
Well, and what I hear is it used to be a huge one you were addicted to, and now in letting go of it, you're able to be in your own state of being while you're still experiencing your mind's demands.
So I need to just shut my mouth
No,
and do my
no.
work.
Next worksheet, next piece of work. No, and it doesn't mean shut your mouth. It means express, and you'll see as you go through that the self study of the codependence. We'll get into the responsibility communication. That will take this conversation to a whole new level when we start to do responsibility communication. And so, yes, you're going to speak, but instead of the conversation being, look, you don't listen to me, and therefore, and what I hear you saying is, you're not doing it from the level of a traumatized 3-year-old anymore. You're moving into an adulthood and recognizing, oh, I had that 3-year-old trauma, raging, tantrum about I better be heard. And you've been able to let go of that addictive aspect of it. It's still an issue. It's still something you're going to work through, but you're not lost in it anymore.
Right. Okay.
And when you
And
move,
that's where I was.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay. That's where I was back when I
Agreeing
was
with you.
doing this work all the time. Yeah. When I was doing this work all the time and I was truly in a state of love most of the time. And remember me telling you for a couple weeks before Mark died that I was, and even after, for quite a while. But then I stopped doing my work, didn't process the death and all of that because I was just
Right.
trying to. That is. I feel like this is huge. I get it. Not being
You
addicted
got it.
to it,
It
being
is.
able to step back from it and see it from a much more loving point of view, even though I still have a little bit of this gnawing at me.
Yep.
So it's just more work to do to get rid
It's
of
an
that
issue.
gnawing at all.
Exactly. And you're experiencing it more from a state of being than from the ego state of the enraged, guilty child.
Yeah. Yeah, feeling like
And
I
so you
have to
can
scream it as loud as I can so somebody will hear me.
just like your power person did to you.
You know
Remember,
what?
under
I
stress, I
had
do
been
what my power person did to me that I hated the most. How did it feel when they
that
screamed at
was
you?
that was another realization I had a couple of days ago. I could not remember anybody yelling at me. And I remembered when I don't want to get in my story because I already did that too much, but I had this memory that was totally blocked out of my mom screaming at me when I tried to talk to her about something.
Yeah.
And she just I'm getting a lot of those. So I
How
was
did it
just
feel?
totally,
How
it
did it feel?
felt like such a relief. You mean how it felt
How did it
for,
feel when you were the object of that screaming?
oh, well, it was, it, I just, at that point, yeah, I just shut down and was like, and then I talked about how wrong she was for responding that way.
Yeah.
I blocked it. I completely have blocked my mom doing this to me out.
Yeah.
And realizing it is like, oh, it was done to me when I was a child, but I learned how to block it out
Yeah.
really quickly.
And notice in remembering how it felt, how it probably feels for those around you when you play that power person dynamic out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've
And
been
it's time to stop inflicting that on your own physiology and on those around you.
right. I
Yeah.
mean, because I have done a whole lot of yelling over my life. And it was like, where does this come from? I didn't remember anybody yelling at me like that. Because I remember
100% of the time,
I remember
100% of the time, when the stress is up and the chips are down and you're doing a behavior, that's what your power person did to you that you hated the most. That's a universal truth,
even if I don't recall it.
especially if you don't recall it. Remember, once again, Carl
Oh.
Jung, until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. That's the idea of opening the veil of the temple and being able to go, oh,
So oh gosh. So
breathe into it.
yeah. So that's stop trying to figure it out with your mind
You got it. Good catch.
and stop trying to make sense of it, accept that this is somewhere in my genetics that makes me do these behaviors that I know are insane.
Yep.
Well,
Yep. That's
to
it.
some extent. I mean, it doesn't make me do it. I choose to do it, whatever. You know.
Well, it's a decision the mind forces on us. It runs the show. When it comes up with a certain level of energetic impact, it takes over. Conscious awareness is lost. And so, again, opening the unconscious dynamic, literally, because the presence of love is there, the energy pattern of it is weakened and you're freed from it. Doesn't mean there's no work to do around it, but the addictive aspect of it goes. That's the difference that I'm just understanding that as I'm getting feedback from people who are doing the quantum still point. That's the difference between still point breathing and the quantum still point.
Okay. All right.
Because what happens is, and I don't know if you remember the moment where it happened, during that process, the mind lets go. And when the mind lets go, that whole structure crashes. That's when the addiction's gone.
Right. Yes, that's what I'm doing. Okay.
Awesome.
I am so glad I called in because I felt like I would be distracting from the conversation, but it's the addiction aspect. Oh, God.
Everybody's gotten a huge gift from your conversation right now. Believe me.
And we're over time too.
That's okay.
Okay.
Delighted.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Lots of love and blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift